Let's come back home to Nigeria, where unemployment at the official figure of about 30% or 32% is not looking like abating, as the country's socio-economic issues are now compounded by a steady increase of insecurity across the country. The federal government has at various times put forward some measures of job creation programs, such as the current Youth Investment Fund, which was launched last year, midwifed by the Ministry of Sports and Youth Development, and funded by the central bank. But are we seeing concrete reformed policies and actions on the ground at state levels or the subnationals aimed at job creation for the teeming Nigerian youths? Joining me now from our Abuja studios is Celestine Okeke. He is a lead partner at Sustainable Entrepreneurship and Economic Development Initiative, or SEEDI. It's based in Abuja, Nigeria's political capital. Good evening to you, Celestine. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Boasin. Good evening.
Great to have you. Thank you so much. Let's chat to job creation for youths at state governments or the subnational level. What's your take looking at the current environment?
Okay, at the subnational level, the big challenge we have at that level is that most of the initiative you will find at the subnational level, and for those who don't yet understand what it means at the state level, what you find there in terms of initiative or activities or programs are either driven by the federal government or driven by the development partners, your USAID, your DFID, your Action Aid, and the rest. Only about 1 or 2 states as at date have a youth development plan or youth development policy. Other states simply wait for when the federal government has a program, the key in. It do not come with a program and the key in. So at the subnational level, the much that needs to happen to drive youth employment is not happening. Regrettably, it's not happening. And I'll give an instance so we can go on. When we rounded up with the UWIN program in 2014, 2015, I reached out to a couple of state governments to say, look, what do you want to do with your indigenes or people in your state that want UWIN grant money? What's the next step for them? How do you want to enable these guys to sustain and grow their businesses? And nothing happened. So as we stand for now, we can't tell what state governments are doing to support UWIN award winners at their state level or empower beneficiaries. So much needs to happen at the subnational level, and it's regrettably not happening yet.
Well, so how important is job creation at the state levels? I remember years and years ago, decades ago, the whole talk about rural-urban migration was happening. And that was, well, now it's a whole lot more folks living in the country, by the way. But then it was all about rural-urban migration. And we're looking at how do we stem this, keep the youths, keep those brains at the various state levels, local government levels, make them useful on the ground. So is this still something we should pursue? Or everyone should just head to Lagos or Abuja if there are jobs over there, for the youths at least?
No, we can't continue to do the Abuja, Lagos, Port Harcourt kind of initiatives. It won't work. Nigeria is made up of 36 states plus the FCT. We can't even, 2 states coming into Abuja alone will knock off whatever we have in Abuja here. State government need to play a very key role. And at this point in time, one would expect the Nigeria Governors Forum to begin to convene conversations around how do we first frame the challenges of youth unemployment at the state level. Because we need to frame the challenge. What is the challenge? We haven't framed it yet. We can't tell if it's an economic-based issue in terms of the economy is not growing, jobs are not being created. We can't tell for a certainty if it's a skill-level challenge, meaning there are jobs, but the unemployed Nigerians do not have the skills to match those jobs. We can't frame if it's a social challenge. We have not framed the challenges. And because what you have in a state like Kano will be different from what you have in a state like Lagos or Abia or Anambra or Enugu or Jigawa State. So we need the state governments to begin to frame the challenges as is peculiar to their state, to their states, and then find approaches that would address those challenges. In Benue State, for instance, we grew up knowing Benue State as the food basket. But in the last 5 years or more, I have been tracking development. I have not seen a plan addressing youth employment in Benue State that is looking at the agri sector. How can they support smallholder farmers in the state? It's not happening. So it's an important conversation that needs to happen, especially with what we are facing as a country at this time. State government need to go back to the board and begin to craft solutions that address the peculiarity of their problems according to what is obtainable in those states.
Well, okay, we've got a whole lot more grounds to cover on the prospects of job creation at the subnational level again, because what type of jobs can we create at the state government level? Is it at the governor's office, at the state secretariat, or is it at the local government headquarters? What type of jobs can be created by governors that looks a little bit like low-hanging fruit? You're hanging in there. Celestine Okeke will be right back with you after this. Yeah, so you're looking at the future of the fast-developing global economy on the side of technology and digitalization. So what type of jobs should Nigeria be creating for the future right now, at least at the subnational level? My guest, Celestine Okeke of SEEDI, is standing by at Abuja Studios. Thank you, Celestine. Let's continue I'm interested in what type of jobs. One of the Western state governor at the peak of the NSARS promised to create 5,000 jobs at the various government offices in the state. And that sounds somewhat to me. How did that sound to you?
Yeah, you see, my stance has always remained that government role should not be more of creating jobs as against creating an enabling environment for businesses to thrive, for entrepreneurship to thrive, for small businesses to grow and become medium enterprises, for micro to grow and become small enterprise. That is what government role should be. So, because if a state government says it wants to create 5,000 jobs, it would then rely on either the FAC allocation or the IGR to pay such persons. And when the crude oil prices go below what it is now, you might not be able to pay, as was the case with Empower for a period of time. So government should create enabling offices, enabling environment for businesses to thrive. I'll give you an instance. If I go to Lagos State today and I want to start a business enterprise, is there an office in Lagos State I will go to? And that office will help me liaise with Ministry of Environment, for instance, liaise with Ministry of Justice, liaise with Ministry of Commerce or Industry, and liaise with all the other agencies I need to work with. It's not existing. So the process flow to start a business in Nigeria is a very big challenge. So what state government should focus more on is creating the enabling environment such that capital will freely come in and be established. And let's not also forget the fact that insecurity is becoming another challenge for entrepreneurship in Nigeria. You want to invest, you're not sure what will happen to your investment. So state government should focus more on creating an enabling environment for enterprise to thrive as against creating jobs. Because if they keep creating jobs that they will pay out of their pocket, those jobs will be dependent on whether FAC is growing or FAC is reducing, or whether the crude oil price is growing or is going to decline. They should focus more on creating an enabling environment, which is a very critical factor. If the ecosystem for entrepreneurship is as it should be in Nigeria, people will naturally do business and begin to try. But if that is not the case, entrepreneurship will keep going low and then jobs will not be there.
I'm still really head-scratching, Celestine, about this rural-urban drift and how we can try to mitigate it and creating jobs at this local level. So what type of jobs can be created, by the way, at the subnationals and local governments level without everyone wanting to work at the local government headquarters?
Okay, so which is why I said state government need to frame what obtains across the state. Let's take Benue as an instance again. The Benue state government should get to a point where to frame what is the challenge to creating jobs across the entire local government in the state. What needs to happen? How does it need to happen? And what kind of jobs should be created? Is it in purely farming, or is it in agro-processing, or is it in some other value chain? That needs to happen. Because you need to frame what your problem is before you can find an appropriate response to it. But that is not happening. So what we have now is a state government saying, look, we want to give out, say, maybe 100 million as loan to businesses. The businesses are having a different challenge as against funding. So until state governments frame their challenges, not much will happen. In the FCT, for instance, there's a different kind of job that needs to be created, more in terms of services, than going into farming and the rest. But FCT administration has not gotten to a point where it's framing what the challenges are to creating jobs. So I expect, like I said earlier, the Nigeria Governors Forum to convene a meeting where they begin to query what is the challenge across every state in Nigeria. What kind of jobs do we need to create? At what pace do we need to create those jobs? Let me end by saying this. I had advocated for state governments to keep a data of their undergraduates in their final year, those in their 400 level or 300 level. Have an idea of the courses they are studying. Have an idea of when they will graduate. Have an idea of what they will do when they graduate. If you have this kind of data, it will enable you to plan for the kind of job you would create for this person or you will support to be created for them. When you don't have this set of data, what you simply do is to launch a youth investment fund. What you want to do is to give out loan. In fact, loan to start what? Loan to do what? So state governments led by the Nigeria Government Forum should begin to talk around what is the peculiarity of the challenge in Oyo State as against Ogun State, as against Kwara State. How do we address this challenge? What kind of jobs do we need to create? Do we need to talk to ITF, Industrial Training Fund, to revamp their modules, to revamp their training arrangement to suit the kind of jobs we need to create now? This conversation needs to start happening yesterday, not even today.
Okay, you've tried to, so I picked, there's a bit of a disconnect here that we have the youth in schools, as it were, but there was no connection with them until they go for youth service corps and off they go to the market. But why has it been such a very difficult thing? Is that been all about money? You highlighted a bit of this, but you've been around a number of states across the country. What are you seeing on the ground right now in terms of youth who are out of job, those who are looking for a job? What kind of job do they want? They want agriculture or they want a digital economic kind of jobs at the state levels?
Yeah, so you see, 5 years back, used to have a preference for the kind of job they want to do. But I tell you, at this point in time, youths are just open for any engagement they can find, regardless of how much it will pay. So, but then the kind of jobs we need to create are the jobs that fit the kind of economy we are running now, a digital economy, a knowledge-based economy. Now, if you go on social media and you check the trend around Nigerians who are working remotely for companies in Europe, countries in America, and the rest, it tells you that digital skills are becoming a key thing for now. Now, digital employment may not take up the entire labor force in Nigeria that are unemployed, but then you would then expect state governments to begin to invest in developing digital skills for their graduates, which is why I said if you track back to your undergraduates in their 300, 400 level, and you begin to say, look, let's develop a program that gives them digital skills right before they graduate, so that they would graduate and have some skills that would enable them find jobs. That would help. But if we wait until these guys graduate and they join the labor market and then we don't even have a plan, we cannot go far with those kind of approach.
But aside digital space, in what other sectors do you think state governments across the board can make very quick interventions near to medium term and get results right now?
Okay, so a low-hanging fruit across most states would be either in farming or agro-processing. Farming is still a big deal in Nigeria because the cost of food in Nigeria is Nigerians spend over 50% of their income on food. So we still spend so much on food. And our yield per hectare across several crops is still about the lowest in Africa. So it's a low-hanging fruit. We expect states to say, okay, if we cannot do direct farming, we can do agro-processing. If we can't do agro-processing, we can support one of the value chain to expand opportunities and utilize them in the agri sector. So the agri sector is a key place where we can begin to put in some investment that will yield good returns for us. And besides that also is to look at services. Services is growing. The Indian economy is not driven by the jobs of those working directly in India, but you have several service hubs in India serving companies outside of India. And what happens when people get jobs and they earn income, this income trickles around the economy and it creates other kind of jobs. So we need to pay close attention to the agri sector in terms of agro-processing, not just farming, and also digital skills and service provisioning.
We thank you so much for your time on the show tonight. Celestine Okeke, lead partner at Sustainable Entrepreneurship and Economic Development Initiative, SEEDI.